Welcome to the third session of day 2 of the fourth annual UAGC Research Symposium. It's a great honor to introduce Dr. Jacqueline Andrews, who is going to discuss the perceptions of the challenges ex-violent offenders with children face re-entering society. And attendees, please post your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll discuss them at the end of the session. And Dr. Andrews, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending my presentation at UAGC. Again, my name is Jacqueline Andrews, and I am a recent graduate, April 2021, and received a doctoral degree in Psych D in psychology. I'm currently a program director for the city of Newark, New Jersey, working with clients who we try to get them off the rolls of welfare. Our theme for this synopsis is to inform the public of the challenges ex-violent offenders with children experience re-entering society. Just a little bit of background. In New Jersey, which is the study setting, many ex-violent offenders apply to the Workforce New Jersey, WFN&J, and the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF, program to receive cash benefits and housing assistance. The TANF program offers emergency assistance, EA, for housing for a period of 2 years. However, there's a stipulation to retain housing assistance. The ex-violent offender must complete a service plan with goals that include an active search for employment or maintaining employment and enrolling into a Workforce New Jersey training activity. But the specific problem is that the reintegration process is disrupted when ex-violent offenders with children do not gain or maintain employment while receiving EA. I felt there was a need to address this problem because when employment is not secured within the 2 years of receiving EA, the ex-violent offenders will be without means to survive and will lose housing, resulting in a disruption of the reintegration process. The purpose of this qualitative, descriptive, multi-case study was to explore the perceptions of ex-violent offenders with children in Newark, New Jersey, on why they do not obtain employment while receiving 2 years of EA, resulting in unsuccessful reintegration into society. I felt that allowing the ex-violent offenders to verbalize their perceptions of the reintegration process, that it would help them process what was happening and ultimately help them have a smoother and more successful reintegration into society. The literature review, social constructivism. The literature review and the basis for my study was based on the theory social constructivism, which asserts that learning is largely collaborative. Lee Vygotsky, a pioneer in social learning, introduced the more knowledgeable other, MKO theory, which is someone such as a teacher who knows more about the subject matter. The MKO theory was exercised during the focus group, and a MKO emerged and was more knowledgeable or experienced with the topic at hand. The ex-violent offenders received a wealth of information, and the social interactive process allowed them to appropriate the information. There were assumptions, delimitations, and limitations, just to name a few. One assumption is that the participants were classified as ex-violent offenders who have children, and that the participation in the study was voluntary. The delimitation The boundaries were the study results were only relevant to ex-violent offenders who lived in Newark, New Jersey, which was the study site. And the limitation is that the study sample size was a limitation because it limited the perspectives received from the study participants. Methodology, qualitative, data collection. We use online survey, semi-structured interviews, and a focus group. The online survey, we gathered information from the participants' demographics. The age range was from 35 to 54, mostly middle age. Most participants were married. They were of Black or African American and Spanish descent. English was the primary language, and the educational attainment was of high school diploma and associate's degrees. The housing history. The housing history varied. Although they had stable housing, they did not have apartments to call their own. And this was a problem. Employment. Many were working, but the type of jobs that they worked did not sustain them after receiving EA, emergency assistance benefits, for 2 years. And many were not interviewing. Family support and community resources. Most of the participants, ex-violent offenders, receives family support from friends and families. However, the community support for job training and resources was limited and scarce. Semi-structured interviews, themes, parent nodes, and child nodes. So when using in vivo, the nodes are used as themes and are structured in parent and child hierarchies, which shows associational and other relationships between nodes. They helped me formulate patterns and themes, and the themes helped answer the research question. So the theme here is stigma. Parent node was released. Child nodes was lack tools to survive in community. So these help me form themes to answer the research question. And the same process for the focus group. I use parent nodes and child nodes. The theme here is New Jersey reintegration process. The parent nodes is released, and child nodes are standard reunification. And again, they help me answer the research question. Research questions. Research question number 1. What are the perceptions of ex-violent offenders with children regarding their ability to secure and maintain employment such that they can provide housing for their family? So the theme 1, improving the reintegration process. The ex-violent offenders felt that the reintegration process needs major changes. They need to change the process, needs to be revamped. They felt that the process needs to be revamped because there's no services to offer female ex-violent offenders. They needed programs tailored to the needs of women, and they needed advocacy for them in order to help push them forward. Research question 2. What are the perceptions of the ex-violent offenders with children regarding supports and strategies that will assist in obtaining and maintaining employment? So our theme was effective services needed. They wanted to be treated fairly. So this was across the board. They wanted to be treated fairly. They wanted to receive the proper tools when they were released from prison that would support their transition into the community, such as follow-up with strategies and supports, and hands-on services that involve follow-up on their progress and referrals to resources that included various assistance, and which was very prominent, lenient services for those with intense criminal backgrounds that permit employment and housing. Research question 3. What are the perceptions of ex-violent offenders with children as to what is needed to assist the reintegration process and helping ex-violent offenders with children prepare to reintegrate back into society? And the theme was accommodation of the workforce for ex-violent offenders. They felt that they needed a workforce system that bring together employment resources and social service agencies, and each agency's implementation of policies and procedures will be on the same page. They also need a higher market rate and better types of jobs that will allow them to get ahead. So discussions and findings. Lack of preparedness, services, and legal history. So our findings on the preparedness services. There were no success obtaining full services such as referrals to social service agencies and job and skills training. And they did not receive assistance and were treated rudely. So that was a theme throughout the study. Halfway house, many were transitioned to halfway houses, and they felt that the counseling and mentoring services were not sufficient and it did not provide adequate resources. Many used transitional employment services, and they felt they did not receive the skills needed to cope in society. Legal history. Stigmatization of being a criminal continues after release from prison. They felt that they were stigmatized wherever they went. It continued after being released. The conditions of probation and parole were extensive, and employers, social service agencies, public housing authorities, PHAs, and private homeowners displayed distrust and denied services, employment, and housing. So these were their struggles trying to reintegrate into society. So there were commonalities in our discussion, similarities and dissimilarities of their views. And just to name a few, it was common perceptions from the ex-violent offenders that they felt that the reintegration process needed major changes in order to actually help ex-violent offenders. They felt that they really wasn't receiving help. There was a lack of employment opportunities and resources. And it was hard to secure housing because of the underlying rules in the housing guidelines. The similarities were they accepted jobs that paid low salaries to continue to contribute, to where they were living and to have an income. So they accepted the jobs even though the salary was low, but they wanted to give something to the people they were staying with. Dissimilarities were another participant's view on obtaining employment was dissimilar. He took a low-paying job to gain experience and to re-enter the workforce. So he was different. Implications for theory and research. This research provides closure to the gap in the literature and attests that reintegration for ex-violent offenders with children is disrupted. There were boundaries of preparedness services that imply that the process needs improvement. And once released from prison, the implication is that focus should be on surveys and questionnaires that help identify the needs of ex-violent offenders with children. Implication for practice was to streamline the reintegration process, and policymakers, social service practitioners, health professionals, and justice system representatives should revamp, they should merge and implement new strategies, new initiatives to assist the ex-violent offenders with obtaining employment. Recommendations for future research. So it was recommended that they would take a holistic approach and use a large sample of a specific cohorts of ex-violent offenders with children, and then expand the criteria of their needs and include other geographical areas in other New Jersey counties. Next, lawmakers should revisit the structure of New Jersey reintegration process and find the missing links that preclude reentry into the community. Research is needed on all aspects of housing, including admissions and denial of renting for ex-violent offenders. Also, research is needed on employment needs and employers' distrust to hire ex-violent offenders. And lastly, research should be conducted on hiring practices to help ex-violent offenders gain employment and complete successful reintegration into the community. So our conclusion, the findings concluded that the perceptions of ex-violent offenders and the challenges they face re-entering back into society were realistic and touched on all aspects of the reintegration process. Findings concluded the participants' negative perspectives of the reintegration process aligned with psychological and sociological reactions and responses to life events that affected their ability to gain employment, obtain housing before EA is exhausted, and to fully reunite with their children. And lastly, practitioners and policymakers have a long way to go to improve the reintegration process, New Jersey's reintegration process, in order to properly allow ex-violent offenders with children to complete a successful reintegration into society. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss my research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andrews. What we're going to do now is I'm going to check the chat and see if we have any questions. And then if not, I have some questions for you. So let's see, Dr. Schmitz, we have a question from her. Let's see. I can't help but wonder how much of an impact the lack of education has on their ability to get jobs to support their families. What are your thoughts on this? What support is offered in terms of education?
Well, little support was offered in terms of education. They do have, however, training programs, even with the Workforce New Jersey, where they had to enroll into an activity. They would have occupational training, different types of medical field training. However, they had to pass, we call it the CASA test, where they find their academic level. So, they have to have, be over a certain academic level in order to enroll in these trainings. So it was a roadblock everywhere they turn.
All right. And then we have another question. Thank you for the thought-provoking presentation on how ex-violent offenders can follow a path to redemption, Dr. Andrews. Why do you think that participants were treated so rudely while trying to reintegrate and improve their lives?
It's just the stigmatization. It's the stigmatization from being in prison, that, it's just the way society is. They stigmatize us on different things. And one ex-violent offender said she felt like she wanted to go back into the prison because she was secure there. She had a roof over her head, meals. And every time she tried to, she'd go to an agency, she didn't get help. She wouldn't get help. She'd get pushed back here. No one would call back. Yeah, that's because of the stigmatization. That's my answer.
Okay, that's unfortunate. All right, I do have a few questions while we're waiting for some more to post in the chat. Was there a drawback for the ex-violent offenders in speaking about their perceptions regarding the reintegration process?
Dr. Ballard, I was so thankful. Everyone was just so open. There was no drawbacks. Actually, it was just heartfelt to hear them express and to verbalize the way they were treated. It's programs out here to help, but when they go to get the help, they don't get the help. They don't receive the help and the resources they needed. And, just to hear them talk about it, and express about it, and trying to reunite with their children. They need to have housing on board. They have to have different things on board in order to get their children back. So it was a lot of drawbacks.
Okay, all right.
But they expressed it.
Okay, they did, okay.
Yes.
And then another question, were there topics discussed where the ex-violent offenders became emotional during interviews?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very emotional. One young lady consistently cried, just crying. It was just very emotional. Yes. All I can say was yes. It was heartfelt. It was emotional. A lot of support from each other. And they just told their perceptions. They told it like it was.
And how did you handle that when that was occurring in your research?
I was trying to stay intact. That's how I was trying, but I was emotional as well. Because one limitation was I'd never been to prison. So I really couldn't relate, but when they begin to express and cry and say how they want to get on track, they don't want, they want their lives together, they want their children back. I just tried to keep it together.
Okay.
Of course, I offer words of encouragement, but I just tried to keep it together.
Right, that had to be difficult, especially without having that experience of being incarcerated. So,
Right.
So what was your purpose for conducting this particular study? What was like a pivotal moment or in time maybe that gave you the idea?
No, I was looking for a research topic, and the work I do here is we help our clients get off the rolls of welfare. And the young lady came in, she was with the intensive case manager, and she had a little baby, and the baby was crying. So I opened my door, went out my office, and I, talked with the baby. And so I talked with the baby, said something with the baby to calm the baby down. And then for some reason I said, when you're finished, step into my office. And this young lady was an ex-violent offender who was trying to get her life back on track. And she came in here and she began to tell me things at that point. I said, wow, this is a good research topic. And that's how I came up with this topic.
Oh, wow. It's always interesting to hear how people,
yes,
I wouldn't say stumble upon their research topics, but in that sense. And so what is next for you with this particular research? Do you have any plans for presenting or something else in addition to this to expand upon it?
Yeah, I think I would like to present more. Also, right now I just work with people who are on the roads of welfare, but I would like to, get into the reentry area within this state. So I'm moving towards that area.
Very good. Let's see. What would be some advice? I didn't serve on your committee and I wasn't your chair, so I didn't have that experience, unfortunately, to work with you. I would have loved that. But what is some advice that you have that you would give others? Maybe there's some students right here in watching this presentation, maybe that would assist them.
Wow. It takes a lot of discipline, first of all. And for me, I'm very structured. So you have to be focused. During what also helped me, because, I work full time and, I have a husband and family. So, I would do my work here, I would do my work at home. But what really helped me, the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I was home. I was able to really concentrate. Also, I had broke my foot, fractured my foot. So I was in home an extra 3 months. So I had time to really just, get into it, send the work to my chair. She sent it back. It was just crazy, but I finally got it.
Okay, that's helpful information for anyone wanting to embark on this difficult journey, right? So,
Yes.
Okay, we have another minute maybe. I don't know if anybody has any other questions or comments in the chat. Dr. Rosser Majors says, thank you, Dr. Andrews, for presenting your research to us. And I'll just give it a second here. Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Andrews, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, attendees, for being here. Please stick around for the next, I think we have 3 more presentations today on day 2 of our symposium and a full day tomorrow, I believe. Oh, don't forget to check out the poster sessions. Those are wonderful too. So thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.